It's funny. I was trying to think of follow-on questions, but you kept answering them. But I was thinking just in terms of top level things to be concerned about with your firmware development, sort of a checklist. What are some of the gotchas on firmware development?
So that's a good question. So when we engage with clients, we typically start early on by trying to identify key aspects of their product. What are those key aspects? Things like, is there a user interface of some sort? Not every embedded device interacts with a person in general use. All of them obviously interact with a person at some point, but it might be that it's set up and then it runs independently and a person doesn't interact with it at any point or minimally over the life of the product and essentially free runs. That's a key piece because if there is a user interface, there's a lot of things that come along with that. Will there be a display? Will it be just LED indications? Will it be buttons? How is the user going to interact with whatever that device is if it's necessary? Another key piece is cloud integration or Wi-Fi connection or internet connectivity. And does this device need to connect to the internet? Does it need to connect to the internet for its primary function? Is it sending data across the internet? Was it retrieving information from the internet? Secondly, is it connecting to a cloud service for device management, data collection? And if so, what is the preferred mechanism for that? There are a number of ways that devices can be connected to the internet, and the most common certainly is Wi-Fi, but it's not the only one. And so understanding what the need is and how that's going to work for whatever the particular product is as part of that initial evaluation. Another one is, how is it going to be powered? Is it going to be battery powered? Is it going to plug into the wall? That is instrumental in the part selection process. It's also instrumental in developing the code and understanding, trying to get out ahead of that firmware optimization and make sure that if it is battery powered, there's things that implies and there's things that sort of come along for the ride with that. And we try to start off by identifying some of those big aspects of the design and then drill down from there. If we say, okay, this device needs to be cloud connected. Okay, the next question is, what cloud service is it that we're looking to do? How are we going to leverage that cloud service? Is that going to be continuously gathering data? Maybe this is a remote sensor somewhere that's like monitoring temperature and sending it up to the cloud. In that case, we know, okay, there's going to be some sort of data aggregation service. Maybe the cloud interaction is just for device identification and keeping track of who has what device. Maybe the cloud interaction is for managing security. So whatever its primary function is, whatever problem it's actually trying to solve, we want to understand what that is and make sure that the firmware that we develop is going to meet that need. An example that I always like to use, we typically encounter products where somebody's building something and they say it needs to have real-time data collection. The problem is that real time is an abstract term and it means different things to different people. In some instances, we've had clients where real time data acquisition meant it needed to be reading 100 or 1,000 times per second and storing that data. In other applications, real time data meant 15-minute reports, and the infrastructure, the code, the hardware, every piece of the system basically to support those two things are going to be very different. And understanding that upfront and understanding that need is part of the work that we do with clients ahead of or at the very beginning of a project. Similar for power requirements. A lot of times people will say we need to have a long battery life. But again, what does a long battery life mean? Most of us are familiar with cell phones, and a long battery life that lasts 2 days would be exceptional for a cell phone. But if the remote for your TV had a battery that lasted 2 days, that would not be acceptable. And understanding what the need of the particular application is part of making sure that we develop the firmware that our clients need.